good to have you join me on Global News and Zuma Nigeria. The headline says over 200 Palestinians, almost 30 Israelis killed this year, says United Nations. Moscow fighter jet destroys Ukrainian boat in Black Sea. Zelensky says agrees to train Ukrainian pilots. Russian air defense is down 2 drones, says mayor, and Humanet elected new Cambodian prime minister. Stay with me for these and more stories. On Israeli-Palestinian conflicts, the United Nations Middle East envoy has said in the occupied West Bank and Israel, over 200 Palestinians and closely 30 Israelis have been killed so far this year, a level of violence exceeding last year's whole death toll and the highest number of fatalities since 2005. On Monday, the United Nations Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Tor Wensland, told the United Nations Security Council that growing violence is being stoked by rising despair about the future among Palestinians and a lack of progress towards achieving an independent state. Palestinians and Israelis are killed and injured in near daily violence, including just hours before this briefing, when another fatal shooting attack killed an Israeli in the West Bank, he told the Security Council, speaking from Jerusalem. The lack of progress towards a political horizon that addressed the core issues driving the conflict has left a dangerous and volatile vacuum filled by extremists on all sides, Wensland told the Security Council. While Israelis and Palestinians have taken some actions towards stabilizing the present situation, Wensland said unilateral measures have continued to intensify hostilities. He pointed to the persistent expansion of illegal Israeli settlements, Israel's demolition of Palestinian homes, operations by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank areas under Palestinian administrative and police control, and attacks by Israeli settlers on Palestinian villages. Wensland also cited Palestinian militant activity, and he said that the current situation is compounded by the fragility of the Palestinian Authority's financial situation, as well as severe funding shortages faced by United Nations agencies, including the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Linda Thomas-Greenfield, United States Ambassador to the United Nations, who chaired the meeting on Monday, called for abrupt measures to decrease the rise in violence and reiterated her government's support for a two-state solution. Russia's Deputy United Nations Ambassador Dmitry Polaiskiv told the Council that long-term stagnation of the peace process was compounded by the ongoing illegal unilateral actions of Israel to establish irreversible facts on the ground, and described the unprecedented pace of Israel's illegal settlement expansion as a great threat. Now, a lot has been going on Russian-Ukraine war. A Russian warplane has destroyed a Ukrainian reconnaissance boat in the Black Sea, Russia's defense ministry said. The ship had sailed close to the Russian gas production facilities when it was attacked by a Sukhoi Su-30 fighter plane, the ministry said on Tuesday. According to the ministry, tonight the crew of the Su-30 CM Naval Aviation of the Black Sea Fleet destroyed a reconnaissance boat of the Ukrainian armed forces in the area of Russian gas production facilities in the Black Sea. The statement did not give details on what kind of boat had been damaged or where precisely the incident had taken place. In recent weeks, Russian officials have said they thwarted a string of Ukrainian marine drone attacks on its warships in the Black Sea. Raids from both sides have intensified in the Black Sea since Russia pulled out of a deal that permitted the safe export of Ukrainian grain through the shipping hub. Ukrainian sea drones attacked the major Russian port of Novorossiysk on the Black Sea earlier this month, destroying a naval ship and marking the first time a commercial Russian port has been an aim in the 18-month war. The Russian Navy's Olenegorsky Gornyak, a landing ship, suffered a severe breach in the attack, which was carried out by Ukraine's Navy and Security Service, Ukrainian officials have said. Still talking Russia-Ukraine war, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Greece will take part in the training of Ukrainian Air Force pilots to fly F-16 fighter jets. The offer by Greece to train fighter pilots comes after Denmark and the Netherlands announced they will supply the first United States-built F-16 warplanes to the Ukrainian Air Force, a development seen as tactically key to Ukraine's defense against Russia's invasion. Zelensky said on Monday during a joint press conference with Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis in Athens. Today we have the important resolve for aviation coalition. Greece will participate in training of our pilots for F-16. I am grateful for this proposal, the Greek Air Force consists mostly of F-16 jets, and Greek pilots are considered very experienced in the use of the US-built warplanes. Zelensky did not provide details of the pilot training program, but officials from a coalition of 11 nations had said that the F-16 training for Ukraine's pilots would take place in Denmark and Romania. Training is to begin this month, and the first Ukrainian F-16 pilots are expected to complete training by early 2024. Earlier on Monday, Zelensky, who is concluding a European tour with earlier stops in Sweden, the Netherlands, and Denmark, said the promised deliveries of F-16 jets had made him confident Ukraine could end Russia's invasion. The Ukrainian leader called the decision to donate the warplanes absolutely historic, powerful, and inspiring for us during a visit to Eindhoven Air Base in the Netherlands on Sunday with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. The Dutch Air Force has 42 F-16s and Rutte said the number of fighter jets to be sent to Kyiv will be finalized after talks with Ukraine's allies. Russia has long cautioned that the provision of F-16 to Kyiv will be a colossal risk that could escalate its war in Ukraine. According to the Washington, D.C.-based think tank, the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, Ukraine's Air Force commander Mykola Oleshchuk believes that F-16s will allow Ukrainian forces to combat Russia's main aviation threat, the Su-35 jet fighter. If Ukraine could destroy between 2 and 5% of Russia's Su-35s, that will force it to temporarily stop flying combat missions to develop a response, the ISW reported. Greece has also been a firm backer of the Ukraine since Russia's invasion, providing humanitarian aid and weapons, including infantry fighting vehicles, assault rifles, rocket launchers, and ammunition. On Monday, Prime Minister Mitsotakis said Greece will be present in the titanic effort to reconstruct and rebuild Ukraine, with particular emphasis on Odessa. More on Russia-Ukraine war. Early on Tuesday, Russian air defense systems have intercepted 2 combat drones west of the Russian capital, Moscow. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said the drones were downed over the Moscow region's towns of Granovskoye and the settlement of Chasy, and Sobyanin said. The Moscow mayor did not give details on damage or casualties in what is the latest attempted drone raid on the Russian capital, Moscow. Footages showed debris littering the ground in the area, including what was said to be fragments of a drone. The facade and windows of a 25-story building were destroyed, as well as a number of cars parked nearby, according to reports. Air traffic at Moscow's Vnukovo, Sheremetyevo, and Domodedovo airports were briefly suspended, reports said, quoting an aviation service sources saying. 2 Ukrainian drones were downed over the Bryansk region near the Ukrainian border, Moscow's defense ministry said, adding that there were no casualties. Ukrainian drone attacks on the Russian capital have become more often in recent weeks, with attacks last week repelled over Moscow's financial district, each causing minor damage to the facades of high-rise buildings. Moscow's defense ministry also said its forces downed 2 Ukrainian drones over the Black Sea later on Monday, some 40 kilometers, almost 25 miles northwest of the Crimean Peninsula. Away from Russia-Ukraine war, now on politics in Cambodia. Cambodia's National Assembly has formally elected the eldest son of the outgoing Premier, Hun Sen, to be the country's new prime minister, a transition of power equated by some to the Southeast Asian version of North Korea's dynastic leadership. Hun Manet, 45, a 4-star general in Cambodia's military, was elected by all 123 members of Cambodia's lower house of parliament who were present for the vote on Tuesday. Today is a very important historical day for the Kingdom of Cambodia, Hun Manet told lawmakers after the vote. He announced that his son will replace him as prime minister shortly after claiming victory for his party in widely criticized national elections last month that omitted any severe electoral competition. All but 5 of the 125 seats were won by members of his Cambodian People's Party, CPP. A plethora of other ruling party officials will also move aside to make way for children and other relatives to step into their shoes in other government offices. According to observers and the political opposition, Hun Manet now has the prime minister's title, but Hun Sen will remain very much at the center of power and politics in Cambodia, symbolically and literally. Exiled opposition leader Sam Rainsy said Hun Manet's assumption of office does not mark a significant change in the political landscape of Cambodia. Hun Sen, 71, also announced that he's not moving far from the levers of power, stating that he will become president of the Senate and continue to serve in other positions for at least another decade. Now, more stories. Japan to begin release of Fukushima water. Japan has said it will begin releasing of over 1 million metric tons of treated radioactive water from the devastated Fukushima nuclear power plant on August 24th, in spite of worries among neighboring countries, including China and local fishing communities. The plan, approved 2 years ago by the Japanese government, is seen as vital to the decommissioning of the nuclear power station, which was crushed in the tsunami of March 2011. The water used to keep the reactors cool has been stored at the site since the disaster, and plant operator Tokyo Electric Power Co. TEPCO is running out of space to keep it. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said he had asked TEPCO to swiftly prepare for the water discharge and expected the water release to start on August 24th, weather conditions permitting. Japan has said that the water release is safe, which has been backed by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. The United Nations nuclear watchdog gave the plan to the go-ahead after inspection in July, saying it met international standards and that the impact on people and the environment was negligible. Still, some neighboring countries, particularly China, have expressed skepticism over the safety of the plan. Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said in July that Japan had shown selfishness and arrogance and claimed it had not fully consulted the international community about the water release. South Korean activists have also protested against the plan, although Seoul has settled from its own study that the water release meets international standards and said it respects the IAEA's assessment. It said on Tuesday that there was no scientific or technical problem with the plan, although that did not mean it essentially supported it. The water, equivalent to over 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools, also includes groundwater and rain that has seeped into the containers. According to TEPCO, the water has been diluted and filtered to remove radioactive substances, although there remain some traces of tritium, an isotope of hydrogen that is difficult to separate from water, which says that the water will be diluted to well below internationally approved levels of tritium before being released into the Pacific. The water will be released into the ocean off Japan's northeast coast at the maximum rate of 500,000 liters, about 110,000 gallons per day. Moving to African scenes, Senegal repatriated from Cape Verde 40 nationals. On Monday, Senegal deported from Cape Verde some 40 nationals who survived a crossing which was to take them to Europe and which cost the lives of around 60 migrants, according to a report. The survivors, all men, mostly young and rescued last week aboard a canoe off Cape Verde, were brought back to the country by a Senegalese military plane which landed in the afternoon at an airbase in the center of Dakar. They were part of the 100 Senegalese and a Bissau Guinean who boarded on July 10th in the fishing town of Fass-Boye West to try to reach Europe by the Atlantic along the African coast. Their boat was spotted on August 14th off the Cape Verdean archipelago, which officially 38 survivors, with rescuers recovering 7 bodies. This will be buried in Cape Verde, said the Minister Delegate for Senegalese Abroad, Annette Seck-Ndiaye. The decision was taken in consultation with the families, said the Minister Delegate, who had returned from Cape Verde with her compatriots. Relatives of the survivors came to welcome them when they arrived. One of the survivors remained in Cape Verde and is treated there because his state of health did not allow him to make the trip, said the Minister Delegate. Thousands of Africans fleeing poverty or war or hoping for a better life take the same sea route every year to try to reach Europe, despite the dangerousness of the journey, which kills hundreds of them. They travel aboard modest boats or motorized canoes provided by smugglers who pay for the trip. Many land in the Canary Islands, the Spanish archipelago, and gateway to Europe. Still on the news, heads of state arrived South Africa for BRICS summit. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Brazil's president, arrived in Johannesburg with his wife Rosângela Janja da Silva on Monday, the eve of the opening of the BRICS summit in South Africa. Earlier, China's President Xi Jinping also headed to South Africa on Monday and has now arrived, according to reports. According to footages, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa received the Chinese leader at the OR Tambo Airport in Johannesburg. The state visit is Xi's second international trip of 2023 after making an official trip to Russia in March. The Chinese leader earlier visited South Africa in 2018 as he sought to enhance his country's diplomatic and economic ties with the continent. The heads of Brazil, China, India and South Africa, plus Russia's top diplomats, will gather between August 22nd and 24th this week under the theme BRICS and Africa. questions had swirled over whether Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is sought by the International Criminal Court (ICC) for his role in the Ukraine war, will attend this year's BRICS conference in South Africa, which is a signatory of the ICC. On the agenda at this year's summit will be the possible future expansion of BRICS membership, which the bloc has earlier specified it is open to all. Numerous African countries have formally expressed a desire to join the bloc, including Algeria, Egypt, and Ethiopia. A total of 69 countries have been invited to the summit, including all African states. BRICS is a loosely defined group that sees itself as a counterweight to Western economic domination, derives its name from the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The group represents 23% of the world's gross domestic product and 42% of the world's population. Take a short break. When we come back, I'll bring you more stories from Nigeria. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Stories from Nigeria says Tinubu urges ministers to serve Nigeria and not states. President Bola Tinubu's cabinet took off yesterday, exactly 84 days after he assumed power, with the president asking his 45 ministers to serve the country with integrity, dignity, and deliver in their different assignments instead of serving their states and regions. While speaking at the swearing-in ceremony of the 45 ministers at the State House Conference Center or Banquet Hall in Abuja, Tinubu said the country is presently battling daunting challenges, adding that the ministers must implement long overdue reforms and restore the citizenry's belief in government. Tinubu said the assignment before the ministers commence immediately and that they must meet the expectations of Nigerians. He told the new cabinet members that they were ministers of the country and not ministers of a region or a state. The president said, and I quote, "I expect that you will serve with integrity, dignity, and deliver. I will hold you to that standard we all promised Nigerians. Your assignment begins immediately. As your country honors you today by this call to service, you must each work to make yourself worthy in the eyes of God and all our nation's people. Your highest obligation is to return public faith in government so that our people can once again believe what the right hands in government can show. I believe in you that the government can be a positive force for the transformation and a vehicle for collective progress of this country. I wish you success in this new assignment. We are on this boat, even if it is a vehicle. I am the driver. The entire Nigerians are behind, sitting and watching as you and I navigate this vehicle. We must hold each other responsible. We have to do the job to meet the expectations of all Nigerians." The president recently sent the list of 48 ministerial nominees to the Senate for screening and confirmation, but only 45 were cleared. On August 16th, President Tinubu assigned portfolios to the ministerial nominees. Over the weekend, the successful ministers designate had their documentation at the Office of the Secretary to Government of the Federation, SGF, Senator George Akume. And finally, on the news, telecom operators lose over 6 million subscribers. According to the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC said latest industry statistics, telecom operators in Nigeria recorded a sharp decline of over 6 million subscribers in 6 months. The figure indicated that 6,113,849 of mobile subscribers were lost between January and June 2023, according to the telecom industry statistics. According to NCC's figures, the telcos had a subscriber base of 225,880,193 in January 2023. In the month of February, there was a slight increase of 226,835,732, but in the month of March, the number of subscribers dropped to 225,821,293, indicating a decline of 1,115,439 subscribers at the period. In April, the four service providers recorded a subscriber base of 223,388,215 after losing 2,483.78 subscribers. There was a repeat of the negative record in the month of May, which had a total subscription of 220,931,688 after 2,406,527 subscribers dropped off the base. In the month of June, a further decline of 1,165,344. This brought the number of the month of June to 290,766,344. According to the NCC's figures, MTN, the largest operator by subscriber count, was a major factor in the drop seen during the 6-month January to June, as it suffered a massive loss of 7,286,654 subscribers. The reduction in MTN's active subscriptions is attributable to the disconnection of SIMs that have not been linked with the National Identification Number (NIN) as mandated by the government. The development resulted in the decline of subscriptions for mobile services in the country from 225,880,193 recorded in January 2023 to 290,766,344 subscribers in the month of June. A recap of major stories says over 200 Palestinians, almost 30 Israelis killed this year, according to United Nations. Moscow fighter jet destroys Ukrainian boat in Black Sea. Zelensky says agrees to train Ukrainian pilots. Russian air defenses down 2 drones, says Mayor. And Hun Manet elected new Cambodian Prime Minister. That's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Tureki. Enjoy the rest of your day.